really enjoyed the week at the Heidelberg Laureate Forum.
And so have I, and as always, I've particularly enjoyed talking to the young researchers. And in today's vlog, we meet Amanda Randles, who is the first young researcher to return as a laureate.
And I really enjoyed talking to Agnes Szmolenszky about the work of the Heidelberg Laureate Forum Foundation and the importance of dialogue between the research community and the rest of society.
And what was also fascinating was today's panel on the state of science integrity. We talked to panelist Lonni Besançon and to some young researchers. Lonni, one theme that has emerged throughout the week is the need to bring kind of human values to maths and computer science. And your panel tomorrow on the state of science integrity kind of fits into that theme. Could you tell us a little bit more about the idea in the panel?
Yeah, so the idea is to discuss with a little bit of different actors within the science integrity world. So that includes publishing sector, but also people that have been involved in either reporting or talking about fraud in the past, and trying to see what kind of misconduct happened, why it can happen, and the kind of things that we could do to prevent it. Because eventually, at the end of the day, all of this boils down to some of the values that we have in academia and how we evaluate researchers and how we give them maybe the wrong incentives to take shortcuts perhaps for their career, and we want to try to talk about all of that tomorrow.
Do you think the HLF has the power to change research culture?
I think so. I mean, obviously a lot of people come here, some people, including some people that have like a pretty big career for all the the measures that we use. But I think the thing that has the most power here is that there's actually so many young researchers. They're the ones who are going to shape the future of academia. So when we talk about misconduct, for instance, they're the ones that in 10 years can say, oh, I should make sure that I don't implement this in my lab because it has led in the past to all these problems. So I think this is the way to do it, really a bottom-up approach rather than a top-down approach. I mean, we could try both, but I think really the future is actually inspiring young researchers to do things a little bit differently. And I think the HLF is doing exactly that.
We've just come from the panel on the state of science integrity. Juniper, what is, in your opinion, the most concerning example of misconduct in scientific publishing?
I'm most concerned about conflict of interest between editors and the journals that they're on. If an editor writes a paper and they're also the ones sending it through the system, that seems to be really concerning.
I work in pure mathematics. I'm not affected by things like data fabrication, but something that I think was not mentioned on the panel is a sort of semi-plagiarism where an existing result and proof can be modified slightly so that it's technically new, but the modification is so trivial that it's really not worth anything as research, but it can still get published, which counts as low quality, low effort publication, and then people can mass produce such papers and the quantity becomes huge.
Franzi, has there been a particular thought or idea that you're taking away from the panel today?
I loved learning that there are scientists who are systematically looking into this, who are pointing out misconduct, who are addressing it. And I also really love to learn that young researchers have places they can go to and people to talk to if they suspect this is happening in their own lab, in their own environment, and have people that can help them figure out which steps to take in these cases.
We're here with Agnes Szmolenszky, the Executive Director of the Heidelberg Laureate Forum Foundation. Agnes, I think this is your first year attending the HLF as Executive Director. What originally drew you to the work of the Foundation?
What drove me to the Foundation is its unique mission to connect, to inspire and to empower the next generation of scientists. To create spaces for some of the most, I believe, brilliant minds and curious minds across the world, and then to share the excitement of science with the public as well.
We were really struck by something you said in the opening ceremony, that there is no science without society. So what did you mean by that, and how do you see the work of the Foundation supporting that?
I really feel that without society understanding why we do science, how can science support us and support us making the world a better space, and I really believe that and mean that. I really don't see the kind of future for science that it should have and the kind of role I believe it should play in our lives. And it's not just about making sure that kids are inspired or that some of them will choose careers in science, but it's a lot about, anybody kind of from the street across the world, understanding that what we do is actually deeply connected to everybody's lives. It's not just an isolated, some sort of a non-understandable, isolated knowledge type. And with technology accelerating at an amazing pace these days, I think it's maybe even more important to support people to be a little bit more informed, and then of course to have the trust as well in what we do. It's a very exciting journey.
I'm now here with Jing Lam again, who we met in the first vlog. Jing Lam, how's your week been? Has there been a particular highlight?
There's so many highlights to choose from. I'd say we're talking to laureates and also with young researchers, because one realizes that everyone is quite similar, and that's a very comforting and very encouraging thought. Like, for example, in the panels, when we would ask them grand questions that we are thinking about, often the laureates didn't have a precise answer. Instead, they encouraged us to think about it, and I think that's really a powerful message to take away. But also, I feel like, especially while talking to the laureates, that even if we weren't working on the same thing scientifically, we could meet on a lot of thoughts in terms of the philosophy of science, or how do you approach communication and whatnot. So I feel like this stresses that the humanities and the sciences should be should be more integrated than ever before, and we should always have a very humanitarian approach to science. Yeah.
I'm here with Amanda Randles, who attended the Heidelberg Laureate Forum as a young researcher back in 2013, and she's the first young researcher to come back as a laureate. We heard in your lecture about your work in digital twins in healthcare settings, and about how that brings together research from many areas, from fluid mechanics to artificial intelligence. Can you briefly tell us what a digital twin is?
Yeah, so a digital twin is interesting, where it's really a virtual replica of a physical asset, but it's more than just a personalized model. It is getting informed by, sensors or other kind of real-time data to be a dynamic replica of that physical asset, with the hope of kind of, affecting that asset at some point down the line as well. From the health side, we're kind of using these for questions like heart failure. So I think one of the first examples of a real digital twin will probably be in that heart failure space. So you're really, creating a virtual replica of somebody's heart, monitoring their blood flow informed by wearable data, and using, physics-based modeling to get the 3D model of their blood flow, understanding what's happening. But then that's letting the doctor see, how your blood flow is changing over time, and you can monitor if there is, something that's worrying to the doctor, and they can see it while you're going about your daily life at home. If we can identify it a week or two ahead of time, we can have a much more proactive and potentially impactful approach.
And what's it like working in an area that clearly has the potential to make an incredibly positive impact in people's lives, but it's also in areas of public concern, things like data privacy or maybe environmental concerns about AI? How do you make those two things work in your research?
We're not at the stage where we're translating some of this to the clinic yet, but we need to be thinking about the security and the fairness now and building that in early so that, it's being taken into account. But then it's also trying to figure out, what is that small step, and how do we do this in, a small controlled way that we understand, that we can, spend a lot of time figuring out the full scientific side of it, while also kind of seeing where could this go in the future.
And as the first one of the alumni to receive one of the big prizes in maths and computer science, have you got any advice for the young researchers here about taking the next steps in their career?
A lot of it is really just trying to find out, what exactly are you really passionate about, but then kind of looking at the field, seeing what's going on, and seeing what you're excited about and where you can make a specific impact, and kind of see, what part are you interested in, and where do you think, what role can you play in, and be willing to kind of try something a little crazy, understand there may be failure along the way, and really be willing to try something new.
one of my favourite parts of the forum, gathering here at the castle with new friends and old friends in this spectacular view.
Yes, it's a fantastic place to celebrate a great week. We've really enjoyed sharing the 12th Heidelberg Laureate Forum with you. See you next year!
See you next year!
The best conference, Shandar.
Humbled, inspired, and excited.
Happy to meet new friends.
Educative, loving, thrilling, and so much fun.
It's loving, excited, and too impressive.
I am super refreshed, super excited. I like it.